بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم الحمد لله رب العالمین ولقد کرمنا بنی آدم وحملناهم في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطیبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضیلا. Surely we have dignified the children of Adam, and we have carried them around in the sea and on the land, and we have endowed upon them all the goodies, and we have preferred them over the most of our creatures. This is the verse in Quran which clearly shows the commitment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of all universe, to dignify mankind. That's the intention, that's the design, that's the commitment. Anything happens against this, against the dignity of mankind, it's against God's will. Whether it is done by the society, by the tyranny, by the system, or by man himself, it's against God's will. His design is to prefer, to excel mankind over all the universe. It is a very good sign that in the last century, as the human civilization is growing, paying attention to the concept of human dignity has been growing. We have seen this episode of paying attention to the Declaration of Human Rights by many societies on the world class, adopted by many governments, having so many laws, rules, regulations in many countries, with that title, claiming to pertain to human rights, to respect human rights, to apply them in their local legal system. Whether they apply it and they are committed to it, that's another story. But paying attention to the concept, that is a good step forward. And why we emphasize on human dignity? If you look at some papers, works done on human rights, they all agree that human dignity is the source of different human rights. When you go to details of human rights, for example, right to free speech, or right, for example, to clean water in some countries, they are subject to limitations put forward by local laws and environment. But when it comes to human dignity, that is the source. That is something that no government can take it away from you. Freedom of speech, yes, a government can declare, for example, state of war, and because of that, put some limitations on communication, on your rights to make a group, to communicate. But no government can take your human dignity away. The only one who can take away your human dignity is yourself. If someone does something out of his or her free will, then he may even give away his right to live. If you commit a crime, if you go and kill someone, by doing that, you are signing yourself out of human dignity. Many legal systems give the government right to punish you, to give your right to life, because you did it to somebody else. So the only one who can take human dignity away is the one himself. So at the heart of this concept is a free will. Human dignity lives because of my free will. This is God-given right. After many talks done by many schools of thought, different philosophical approaches, there was a kind of consensus on having Declaration of Human Rights, and that was done after World War II. And there is a reason for that. Because so much was done against human rights during World War II. More than 60 million people were killed, either by the act of war, or because of famine, or because of diseases related to war. Nothing could be done more cruel against human dignity compared to what took place during that war. And this war, in the middle of 20th century of man's civilization, was committed by whom? By people from countries who were proud of having democracies, or having systems, having pride in schools like socialism, all calling themselves schools of humanism. All of those societies who committed all of these cruel things against human dignity were claiming to believe in dignity of man. So claiming is one thing, and practicing something else. And I will come back to this distinction later. But what we observed in many countries, in Europe, in Americas, in Asia, many laws, rules, regulations passed respecting human rights. That is a good thing. And just recently, with rise of this new thing, the cyber society, people being able to relate to each other in much wider spectrum, having access to so many other people around the world, which gives opportunity to talk about common values among mankind. Unlike anything like that before. When you go into cyberspace, when you listen to what people are talking about, the main common thing is human dignity. The values, the human values, is shared among all different races, different political systems, different schools of thought. Regardless of gender, regardless of nationality, regardless of language. That is another testimony for common value system. What we call it fitra in Islamic thought. All human beings share something. They have something in common. A common value system. They all cherish bravery. They value generosity. They all like and admire justice. These are the shared value system. The same tenets of all religions of God. So this is a wonderful opportunity for raising human values in the minds of people around the world. All of these things are very promising news. The attention of mankind to human dignity has been rising and is rising. So, talking about future of the world and human dignity, we are observing a much more prepared environment for human dignity. And we can be very hopeful that the future is even brighter in terms of paying attention and practicing and upholding human dignity. Let's have another look to another side. What is the imagery? What is the picture of future of the world? Listening to prophets of God. What kind of future has been depicted by prophets of God? Learning from the knowledge, God's knowledge about the future of mankind. You heard previous speaker giving you some samples, some sayings from different religions. And I emphasize on Islamic view. وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. That's the future of the world. That's what the human society is led towards, that kind of society. Those who have been kept weak, they have been forced to weakness. That's our commitment, God's commitment and intention, to make them the leaders of the world. And they should be the heirs of the earth. The same thing has been reiterated in Old Testament. And this has been cited in Quran again. وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Even in today's Torah, you can find this. And it was mentioned. We have written this down. This is our intention. We have ordered that. The earth will be taken by my righteous servants. So the future of the world is the kind of society that righteousness will rule. The truth will prevail. And in that society, people will have enough opportunity to grow. Development of man's potentials, that is the rule of the land. There have been details of that future society. In that society, people are not forced to spend much of their time to find food. There is abundance in that society. There is no injustice in that society. No man's wealth or the result of his work is taken away by somebody else. Even today, if you divide the world's income by the population of humanity, all people will have a better life. Injustice is the main cause of poverty, famine, low education, low nutrition, disease, murder. So in that society, if you look at that picture, you have security, you have abundance, you have potential for development. The third point is, okay, we saw this rise of attention to human dignity, and we saw this picture of future of the mankind. There comes this question: can I be hopeful that in reality the human society is going forward? Is it true that every day we are having a better society, a better life? Should be optimistic regarding what's going on in human society? If so, what about all of these crimes committed here and there? What about all of this injustice? What about all of this cruelty? What about all of this corruption? When you talk to people, and it is more possible than before, you go to cyberspace, listen to people in Asia, in Americas, in Europe. Everybody is complaining. Everybody is dissatisfied. Nobody looks happy. In the United States, someday you see this rebellion-like movement of 99% against 1%. In every opportunity that elections give people, people show their dissatisfaction. People actually rebel against their political system. The results of elections are mainly rejection of the system rather than accepting or supporting a candidate. They are voting to someone because they want to show their resentment to the other one who represents the establishment more than the other. So you don't see satisfaction. You don't see happiness. You don't see the feel of accomplishment. People are not happy. So what's going on? Should we be pleased with the way the human society is developing? Is the mankind going forward or backward? The reality is, what we see is more awareness about what mankind really wants. Mankind is becoming more aware about its rights, the kind of life that they want to have, the kind of society that they wish to have, but they are not satisfied by what they have achieved so far. You can identify two opposite movements in opposite directions. The man's mentality, awareness, thinking is going towards human values. Subjectively, man today is more aware, more committed, more wishful about human values. But objectively, in reality of mankind's life, what you see is the relations of power and wealth. The life in reality is set only by distribution of power. Those who have power, the mighty ones, they actually run the show. They get whatever they want, regardless of the legal system. This status of contradiction between what our societies show and what our societies are is the source of this dissatisfaction. This hypocrisy in the system. Let me refer to events of a couple of months ago about this sexual scandals, the abuse in American society. In places who had this face of being intellectual, being representative of art and culture. When the curtains fell down, people realized that what really goes on behind those curtains. The very ones who used to preach others for the values, they were the ones who were committing the most scandalous crimes. Things which are revealed day and again about legal systems, political systems, corruption in many countries. That is the source of dissatisfaction. What I am going to derive from this dichotomy, this distinction between subjective word and objective word. what I see in that is a widespread awareness that the current system cannot deliver. Although they have claimed for so long that they are humanistic systems based on human values, but they do not practice them. The values are there, but delivery is not there. This level of awareness is what we can term it the awakening of mankind. Mankind is waking up that all these different kinds of systems, different schools of thought, who promised so many rosy societies, they are not able to deliver. And this is the meaning of يَمْلَأُ اللَّهُ بِهِ الْأَرْضَ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا كَمَا مُلِئَتْ ظُلْمًا وَجَوْرًا. This is the main presentation of the Imam Mahdi's society. Justice will fill up the human society as it was filled with injustice. And there is this question. The history of mankind always have been filled with injustice. What is so special about the pre-Imam Mahdi society, which has been depicted with this title that it has been filled with injustice? It has been interpreted that this feeling of being filled with injustice actually means being fed up with injustice. This self-awareness about injustice is what is new. Otherwise, injustice has been all through history, all along. The thing which is new is that mankind is now aware that, oh, this I cannot accept. I'm fed up. And this feeling of being fed up, that is the main element for upholding justice. That means the readiness of human society for Imam Mahdi's society. There is no need for guns. There is no need for big battles. There is no need for millions to be killed. All systems, all power systems are built upon people who say yes to injustice. The day that people rise up and say, no, not anymore. I'm fed up. Then all systems will collapse. There is no need for big wars. This is a misrepresentation of Imam Mahdi's advent, that the earth will be filled with blood. That is not so. All the battles of Imam Mahdi will be fought not against people. It will be by the people against the tyrants. That is why the victory is so quick. That is why not many battles are to be fought. and his government over the world is not by force. It's by acceptance. The main source of dignity of mankind will be in play, which is free will. We have this beautiful saying of Imam, that Imam Mahdi goes to Jerusalem, to Bayt al-Muqaddas. And there, according to our sources, Jesus, peace be upon him, also reappears. And according to the hadith, prays behind Imam Mahdi. And because of this, all Christians of the world come and follow Imam Mahdi. And the hadith goes as it says, بِغَيْرِ قِتَالٍ. And that is very important. This acceptance, this obedience is not because of force being forced upon them. No. It's because they have found what they were looking for. The government of peace, the government of justice, the government of development of soul. That is the lost ideal of mankind through history. And it is deplorable that some official from one of the so-called Muslim governments goes saying in some interview that Imam Mahdi that Iranians are after his advent will fill the world with blood and will force all humankind to accept Islam. And this comes from the government who misrepresents Islam with sword on its flag. The kind of Wahhabi thinking who has always gone against the concepts of Islamic world, which emphasizes on Islam of peace. Their understanding of Islam has been like this all along. The belief in Imam Mahdi does not and is not special to only followers of Ahlul Bayt. All Muslims in all schools of Islamic thought share the belief in Imam Mahdi. But Imam Mahdi is the one who bases his government upon the acceptance of people, not by forcing them. Maybe that government official looked at himself and his own government and judged that future. So the main prerequisite for governments of Imam Mahdi and that future of the world is this shared feeling of resentment to what it is and willingness to what is to come. But that is one prerequisite. There is a second one as well. Vis-a-vis this general willingness, there is an element of preparedness by a special group, the qualified leaders who have the duty and the mission of leading human society towards this goal. That is also required. So we have these two elements which has to go together. The general willingness and awareness, and a special group of prepared leaders who have this mission to uphold this government of justice. In that future, then we have this picture that إذا قام قائمنا وضع الله يده على رؤوس العباد فجمع بها عقولهم وكملت به أحلامهم. In that society, you see the rise and perfection of science, wisdom, knowledge. You see perfect growth and development. تظهر له الكنوز ولا يبقى في الأرض خراب إلا يعمره. All the wealth is being presented to that society. There is no ruined point which is not built. The construction, the development, the wealth, the having access to what man needs. These are the features of that society. Are these the goals? No. These are accessed because the goal of perfection is to be achieved in that society. Let me conclude. In the rosy future of the world that all believers of religions, and in particular Islamic thought, shares, there is this government of justice. But that kind of society has to be worked for. The work for that society has two elements. One is the general awareness and willingness, and the other is preparedness of a group of qualified people. What we see in the current development of mankind, the first is happening. The second waits for that special group of people. And every one of us has the duty to try to be among this latter group. Allahumma ajil liwaliyika al-faraj.